think I only need to share this one window. So what we're going to do is, this is the same thing we did the last in-service, but there's going to be only two modifications to it. So I'm going to go over it a little bit more quickly. All right, so I'm just going to go through this, and then this will be recorded. And so you'll be able to go back through and watch the recording. And also, Sarah is available to help you if you get stuck when you're going back through that recording. All right, so here we go. This is, we're going to pretend this is my Math 111 class. You'll have whatever your class is. There's going to be a new assignment in here. It should be the last thing before the weeks start down here. And it's called Course Outcomes Assessment. And it has a couple of links already in here. We're going to look at these links. You can look at your CCOG for your class in the first link. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to right click, open a new tab so I can look at it and then come right back to this. So I have that in a new tab. So this is a math class. Your class is most likely not a math class, so you'll scroll down to whatever subject you're in. And I'm going down to math here. Now, sometimes on this page, you actually have to scroll up, not just down to find your class. So like, for example, Math 111 is right here, but if I want 105, I'd have to scroll up. I don't know why it's like that, but sometimes you have to scroll up or down to see your class. So I'm going to click on Math 111 CCOG. This is the course outline. So that's going to load up here eventually. All right. And I'm going to make this quite a bit bigger. So I'm holding down Control and scrolling. You can also do Control plus and minus to change that. Here's the course outcomes are written at the top, but we're actually going to go to the very bottom of this document to see them written in a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom. So there's two tables. There should be two tables at the bottom. They both have course outcomes. The first table at the bottom has course outcomes and program outcomes, and it matches your course learning outcomes with a program learning outcome. And the second table matches your course learning outcome to an institutional learning outcome. It may be good to maybe copy and paste these somewhere else, write them down. You can open them in different windows. So you have one window on one side of your screen and one on the other. Whatever works for you, you can do that. But what we need to pay attention to is have course learning outcome 1, course learning outcome 2, course learning outcome 3, and course learning outcome 4. So I have 4 course learning outcomes, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's super important. I have institutional learning outcome only, institutional learning outcome 3. And for the program learning outcomes, I have program learning outcome 1 and program learning outcome GE2. Wow, let's scrolling really quickly. Program learning outcome GE2. So I don't need to memorize these because I'm going to come back to this in a minute when I'm clicking on which outcomes my class has. So again, to get here, you're going to click on this link here, access your CCOGs at this link. It'll open up curriculum resources. You're going to click on your subject, and then it should have your course outcome guide inside of there. Okay, so how do we use this? What we're going to do, I've already turned on editing, so you may have editing turned off. Just make sure you turn on editing in the upper right corner. And we have, again, course outcomes assessment. What I'm going to do is click on the edit button and edit settings. So now we're looking at the settings of the assignment. There's only one place we're going to change, and that's down in the outcomes. So I'm going to open up outcomes. I recommend you don't change anything else here, just the outcomes. Now, my class, this is where I need to remember or go back and look what outcomes I have in my class. So I'm going to go back to my CCOG for Math 111. So I have course learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to click on 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to go back to Moodle, course learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't have 5, 6, or any of these. So I have my 4 course learning outcomes. Now the program learning outcomes are all next. So I see program learning outcomes here. So my program learning outcomes, I have PLO 1, and it looks like I have PLO 2, but this is actually PLO GE2. So be very careful. The program learning outcomes are a little bit more tricky. They have slightly different names. So I have PLO 1, and I have PLO GE2, which is down here. So I have PLO 1 and PLO GE2. I also have institutional learning outcome. You have at least one of those, sometimes more, and those are listed at the bottom table. So I'm going to scroll down in my course outcome, and I have only institutional learning outcome number 3. So I only click institutional learning outcome number 3. Now I'm going to intentionally click on an extra one, and I'm going to show you what to do if you do this. So if you accidentally click on extra one, it's not a big deal. You cannot delete it, but you can ignore it, which I will show you how to do. So any questions on what I did right here? We're going to hit save in a minute when we're done here. But I just want to see if there's any questions before I leave this page. All right, so I'm going to hit save and return to the course. Make sure you save it, or else none of these are going to be clicked and saved. Okay, so once we have them all saved, now what we're going to do is rate our students. How we're going to rate them is we're going to use this rubric right here, which is the second link. So I'm going to right click, open in a new tab. And our rubric has changed. So this is why we're rerunning this training, is because we added in a 0 score, meaning no achievement. And depending on which institutional learning outcome you use, I am using number 3. So I'm going to go all the way down to number 3, which is on the next page. Your class likely uses a different institutional learning outcome, and possibly more than one. So you may be looking at different rows for different outcomes. So my 4 is on the left column, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Now 0, you can also use a 0 if the student did not attempt the assignment or didn't turn it in, something like that. So if there's also, if the assignment meets right here, doesn't meet any of the criteria whatsoever, that's basically a 0. So if either they didn't do it or they did it and met none of the criteria, you would give them a 0. And that's new from last quarter. So this is 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Now these numbers are going to come up again in a minute, because what we're going to do is rate students on how they achieve these outcomes. Now it's up to you how you determine which outcome was measured, maybe by a certain assignment or several assignments, or some other way to determine how they were achieved. That's up to you. So in my math class, I'm going to go to the grade book now. Now in the grade book, we have some fake students. You'll have real students. You do need to turn editing on. So you should see, as long as you added in your outcomes, you should see your outcomes show up. Probably it's going to be on the right side of this spreadsheet here. And when you click on them, you can give them a rating from 0 to 4, which corresponds to those different columns. And so I could rate everybody on institutional learning outcome number 3. I'm just making up numbers. I don't recommend you make up numbers. You should know why you're putting a 3, a 4, and a 2 in here. And then let's say my course learning outcome 1. I don't like the ordering. I'll show you how to change the order in a minute, but I'll just do 3, 4, 3. You do need to rate them for everything, except if you put one in by accident. I accidentally added institutional learning outcome 1. You cannot remove it. However, you can leave it as no outcome rating right here. So if you added an extra one, you just leave it as no outcome for your rating. But all the rest of these numbers do need to be, oops, stay on page, do need to be filled in. I'm just randomly clicking as fast as I can here. All right, so this is what it will look like when you've done it. Everything has numbers in it, except if you added 1 by accident or 2 by accident, those would have no outcome in that column. You do need to hit save. Save changes. And if you want, you can go to gradebook setup and you can change the order that they appear. I didn't like the order they were in. They were kind of backwards from what I wanted. So I can click on course learning outcome 1 and I clicked on the up down arrow and I can move it up to the top of all the outcomes right here. Let me zoom in and do this a second time. So I'm going to move course learning. You can do this with anything in your gradebook. Be careful if you put them in categories, that does mean something, depending on how your gradebook's set up. I'm just reordering here. So clicking on the up down arrow, that was for CLO2. I'm going to put it below CLO1. So I click this blank space rectangle, and that'll put CLO2 below CLO1, and I can reorder all of them if I want to. These don't count as they won't contribute to the grade in the gradebook. So whatever scores you put in here won't change the student's grades. So that's important to understand that. This right here just tells you it's out of 4 points, but it does not contribute to the grade. So this is how to enter. I'll go back to the grader report. You'll see that it changed the order. This is how to enter scores for students here. So any questions on entering scores here? All right, okay. Did I skip anything or miss anything?
Well, I think before I get to scores, I'm going to have to come up with these learning outcomes that I've never done before.
Yeah, let's look for your class. So what I'm going to do is click back to the main page for the class. I'm going to click on the first access your CCOGs at this link. And what class is yours?
PS 201.
PS 201?
Yes. It's political science.
Oh, PS. Okay. So I clicked on political science, PS, and I have to scroll up for yours. Sometimes you do have to scroll up. So.
Right.
Here,
but
here's your 3.
That's the other instructor. That's someone that teaches generally in the fall.
That's okay. He edited or he updated the CCOG. That's why his name's on there.
Okay, well, yeah, just because I never have that, that's what I mean. Yeah. We've talked about this and we listed them, but when I submitted the syllabus at the beginning of the term, it only showed that you would contact you may have requested from the Office of Instruction, but we can replicate what he's got here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to use these course learning outcomes here.
Okay.
That are on this document. While we're looking at yours, I can see that all of your program outcomes are PLO GE4. So you only have one PLO that you're going to click, which is the GE4. And then your institutional learning outcomes, you actually have all 4 institutional learning outcomes, 1, 3, 4, and 2. So you have all 4 institutional learning outcomes that you're going to have to rate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome. All right. And over to you, Sarah.
I'm just going to go over how to complete the narrative portion of the course outcomes assessment process. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this quiz we've been working with is also our narrative assessment. So when you come back to do this portion, it needs to be completed as a student. The assessment portion needs to be completed as a student. So we'll need to unhide it and also change our role to a student. The reason for that is that the reports we pull only pulls student values, student responses. So I'm going to go ahead and the first thing I'm going to do is unhide this. And I have all of your classes hidden, but if they weren't, students would be able to access this for a minute. And that's not a big deal if they click on this and try to do something with it. It's just we want to hide it pretty quickly afterwards, just so it's one less thing they have to worry about or ask about.
Students can only access the questions that you're about to see, not the ratings that we just looked at. So they won't be able to like peek into your grade book.
Yeah.
They can only access what Sarah is going to show you in a minute.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
So after you've made it visible, go ahead and change your role to a student. Click on your name in the top right-hand corner and switch role to and student.
You can also use this to check something else. Like if, what does it look like for a student? Is something really hidden? Is week 7 really hidden from a student?
Yeah, if you haven't used this before, it's pretty useful for seeing what your students will see, which is not much in this class. I'm going to go ahead and click on the outcomes assessment quiz. And if you've done this process before, we're going to go ahead and click attempt quiz now. So it's going to look just like it did before, just scroll down a little bit. These questions should look pretty similar to the previous term if you did that process. Our change here is that the responses need to be limited to a couple of sentences or 255 characters.
No, they need to be limited to 255 characters, no more. Because if you go past 255, it will throw away the rest of your response, even mid-word.
Well, it won't show us right off the bat what we did last year. Will
It
it?
will not, no.
No, but you can go back and look at your previous course. You can always go back and do that.
No. Okay.
I can show you how to view responses in just a minute too. So what did you discover about student performance? Just gonna stick some stuff in here. Future planning, what changes or high impact practices do you plan to implement? And then this is the question that you might answer after you go back and look at a previous course, if you've implemented any changes. And we moved this question down, how will you adjust your teaching methods, down from here to give you a little more room to write. And so this question was originally part of this question. And when you're done, just go ahead and click finish attempt and submit all and finish. And again,
You have to hit all of these submit all and finish the 2 extra times, unfortunately.
And then it's just going to show you your answers. Go ahead and scroll down and click finish. If you were, oh, okay, let me finish this up and I'll go back and look at one more thing. So it takes us back to the test. You can review your attempt again. I'm going to go back to the main course page, change my role back to my normal role. Ooh, that's a nice bright, what's what I call it. And then turn editing back on. And we're going to rehide the assessment. In this class or in another class, you can always, in a previous class, you can always click on this again and click attempts, and you can view your previous attempts.
So you just had to navigate to your previous class. Now, we only started doing this last quarter, so if your class was last year, you can't access it using this. Just try to remember what you wrote and do your best.